we'll make it work, right? No. You want to see? You're gonna hold Mandela's hand, okay?
Yeah.
You hold his hand. Hold his hand. Okay. Okay. Well, hello everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. You know, I started my campaign a little over a year ago with the intent of defeating Ron Johnson. And I will tell you, that has not changed except for how we are going to do it. And look, like, as a mom, I think about our kids as we are right here in a child care center and about how critical their future is. As a Western Wisconsinite, I think about how we have to do right by everybody across the entire state. And also, as a woman, I think about what we've got to do to make sure we restore a woman's right to choose. But the bottom line is, as you all know, I am a tell it how it is person, and I take a very common sense approach. And I know that right now what we have to do is we have to get behind Mandela Barnes to defeat Ron Johnson. And that is exactly what we're going to do. But I also want to say something to the supporters and to the women and girls who have called me and sent me text messages and are so worried about their rights as they are seeing Ron Johnson say that they cannot make their own healthcare decisions. I will tell you, I will never back down from that fight, but I know the first step to get us there is electing Mandela Barnes, who actually cares about this issue. And here's the deal. Mandela and I actually share a very common background. We are products of two school teachers. We are also products of a union family. And I will tell you, growing up in union families, Mandela and I have both learned never to back down from a fight, not even a tough one. And we know this isn't going to be easy. But you know what? The stakes couldn't be higher. Whether we're talking about a woman's right to choose and Ron Johnson is telling half our population that they should just move if they want to get their rights back, to literally looking at right here, we're here with childcare, because 54% of our state's in a childcare desert. And what does Ron Johnson say? It's not society's problem to take care of our kids. Or as we look at the price of gas and prescription drugs, well, Ron Johnson has given his kids, given himself and his wealthy donors tax cuts, right, Hartley? Boo! I know. So look, I will tell you something that I know from working with Mandela over the past 4 years is no one will fight harder. He will be in the trenches. He will fight for working families because it's exactly who he is as a person. But he also knows, I say all the time, we only win by 2 to 3 votes per precinct, the state treasurer and me coming out, and we win those votes by working together. And that's why I am so glad to stand here endorsing Mandela, because I know that we can defeat him. I also just want to first say that I am really proud of the 72 county campaign that we launched across the state. You know, growing up in Eau Claire, my parents always said, when you see something wrong, what do you do, Hartley? You stand up and you do something about it. I know. And I would not be here without the values that my parents, Dave and Ann, have taught me. I'm so grateful for that. I'm also just want to thank my husband, Max. You can imagine running for statewide office of a mother of a 2.5-year-old. It's not easy. And I would not be able to do this without his endless support and love and taking care of our 2.5-year-old when I'm on the road and traveling across the state. I also want to thank my little cheese curd Hartley for being my inspiration to running for office and making sure that it's a brighter future for the next generation. And I also just want to thank our amazing staff and volunteers who are all here today. I will tell you, this is the best experience of my life, and we would have never made it this far without your commitment and support along the way. And I also just want to finally say thank you to the people of Wisconsin. You took a risk by electing me in 2018 as a political nobody, and you took a risk at making sure that I would step up and do what was right when it came to saving the state treasurer's office, and I'm here because of you. So I just want to thank the state, and it has been the honor of a lifetime, serving for U.S. State Treasurer and running for the U.S. Senate. And with that, we got to do this, Mandela. November 8th is going to be here before we know it, and we're stronger when we do this together. So with that, I want to send it over to my friend, our next U.S. Senator, Mandela Barnes. Hartley, do you want to give a high five to Mandela?
He's fine.
He's like, wait, this is for me.
That's all good. We keep him right there hanging out. It's a nice backdrop. Well, thank you so much. Thank you. Well, I just want to say how much I appreciate your support in this race. Want to thank you for the spirited campaign that you ran. Taking on the issues, not backing away from the tough fight. It is not easy to do. It is not easy to put yourself out there. And I know that given all the hard work that you and your campaign put into the last year or so, I know this moment isn't easy, and that's why I'm so deeply grateful to have your support in this effort. Now, as we campaigned together 4 years ago and have served in office alongside each other, I've always admired your determination, your dedication to make the most out of any situation, especially out of a position that the former governor tried to get rid of. You worked every day to make sure that the state treasurer's office actually made a difference in the lives of working people, and for that, we are all grateful across the state of Wisconsin. Now, during your campaign, you centered one of the most pressing fights of our time right now, and that's protecting abortion access. That's standing up for the rights and freedoms of women all across this country. You've been outspoken about the need for childcare. You've been outspoken about the need for support for working families and working parents especially. You've also been a tireless advocate for rural communities, just like the one you grew up in. You've been outspoken for our family farmers who are struggling as people like Ron Johnson continue to prioritize big ag and special interests. He puts these interests over the interests of working people and family farms, the same family farms that made the state of Wisconsin who we are today. Now, Sarah knows that from Milwaukee to Eau Claire, that working families all want the same things. It's no real difference. We want clean water to drink. We want health care that we can afford, good jobs, good schools for our children. And most importantly, we don't want politicians making the most personal choices for us. This is what we're all fighting for together in every community across the state of Wisconsin. And when we come together, I know that we can all achieve it together. Now, like I said, it's not easy to put your all into a race and step away. I know that Sarah has experienced long days, long nights away from Will Hartley, and I know that she did it all for his future, but not just for his future, for the future of all children in this state and across this country. It takes leadership, it takes commitment, and the idea that better is possible, that we all share, that we all have in common, is why you did what you did. And I want to tell you, better is possible. We're in a much stronger position than we have ever been to defeat Ron Johnson once for all. And that's because this is bigger than any single one of us. This is about retiring a senator who's left working people behind time and time again for over a decade, at a time where he doubled his own personal wealth, and many people across the state and across this country have experienced the most difficult circumstances they ever will. He's a senator who prioritizes big ag monopolies, even as we lose an average of one family farm per day here in Wisconsin. He's refused to support affordable child care. As you said, he said it's not the government's responsibility to take care of other people's children. But for some reason, he thinks it's his responsibility to take care of the people who already have more than they ever need. Ron Johnson has helped big corporations ship our good jobs overseas and then have the nerve to vote against the CHIPS Act. And we know what this would have done to breathe new life into manufacturing here in Wisconsin, the same industry that gave my family a ticket to the middle class. He orchestrated $200 million in tax breaks for his mega donors, but refused to lift a finger to help struggling people in this state during the pandemic. We're talking about a senator that wants to take away health care from 400,000 Wisconsinites who rely on the Affordable Care Act. Someone who wants to remove protections for the 2.4 million Wisconsinites with pre-existing conditions. This is a senator who refused to vote for the infrastructure bill. He couldn't even be bothered to read it. But he'll sure take our tax dollars to fly on a private jet to his ritzy vacation home in Florida while people in Wisconsin still struggle to pay the bills. Now, this week has demonstrated what it looks like when we all come together for a goal that's greater than ourselves. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and say that this won't be hard, but I know that it'll be that much easier when we all come together and join this fight with one another. We're building a coalition that crosses generations, crosses racial divides and political divides as well. It's a coalition that includes farmers, union leaders, teachers, small business owners, and working people all across the state of Wisconsin. That's exactly how we came together to beat Scott Walker in 2018 with the highest midterm turnout on record. We did it by bringing people together from every corner of the state of Wisconsin. And that's exactly how we're going to take the fight to Ron Johnson this November. Thank you all so much.
So there's been a lot of talk about how this unity will make you stronger against Ron Johnson. What do you say to those who would argue you would actually be stronger had you had a more contentious primary and address some of the attacks now that you're going to hear later?
I think this is a very contentious primary. Lots of people, hey, I'm just saying this is a very tough primary. Nothing about this was easy for anybody who got in the race. And I do think that primaries ultimately make candidates stronger. I'm proud to have even been in this race with you. I think ultimately it has made me a better candidate as we've grown over this last year. There's a whole lot to learn about myself, there's a whole lot to learn about each other. But what's most important is that we are experiencing a unity that has not been seen before in this state. We set out of the gate to build a broad coalition. We are doing just that. This is about uniting the party, and I will say that we are more united than we've ever been before. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. We'll be.
We can do a quick gaggle with Sarah with people who want to. She'll take quick questions.
Are we doing questions now?
Yeah. Anybody has
When was it, Sarah, when was it time for you? When did you make that personal decision to drop out of the race and support Mandela?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was something that I reflected on within literally the last 24 hours. And I know that we're better when we all come together, and that's why, for me, it was pretty immediate. Like, let's do this and let's do it now, because every day matters when the elections are so close here in Wisconsin.
Do you think Mandela has a broad reach beyond the cities to rural Wisconsin to be able to draw in voters who can supplant Senator Johnson from that third term?
I mean, look, if there's one thing we know about Mandela Barnes, it's he's no stranger to running statewide. And he has done well. And he's going to show, like he did in 2018, again in 2022, that he is the best candidate and he will defeat Ron Johnson.
What does your involvement look like going forward?
I will be helpful to however the Barnes campaign would like me, whether that is traveling to Eau Claire or rural Wisconsin or talking to women's groups or, coming to child care centers. I mean, to me, if there's one thing that we learned again in 2018, it's all hands on deck. And so however I can be helpful to candidates up and down the ticket, we've got to come together. We've got to work to elect Governor Evers, Mandela Barnes, and Democrats across the state.
What would you say to voters who have already submitted an absentee ballot with your name on it?
Thank you for voting.
I guess another question too, knowing that a lot of support is behind Mandela Barnes now, do you think that frees up Democratic voters to maybe switch sides and then vote in the gubernatorial primary on the Republican side as well?
I mean, I think our values couldn't be more different, and there's a pretty stark contrast when you look at what Mandela Barnes represents versus these gubernatorial candidates, and so I don't see there's going to be any crossover because it is clear who's going to fight for whether it's a woman's right to choose, who's going to actually fight to address inflation and lower costs to actually get things done. And we know it's Mandela Barnes and Tony Evers that's going to do that.
Can you explain why you went off air in much of June and July?
Look, if there's something that we know, it's about you got to have a strategy, and everybody has different strategies about how to best win, and so for us it was kind of thinking through that.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.